The FPS genre has been around for a long time. Like, a really, really long time. You could go to your local care home and see a group of old people reminiscing about the good old days playing Doom on Mabel's life support system. It was worth every second. Everyone knows the original Doom. Even if you haven't played it, you've most definitely heard of it.
You guys want to play Doom?
Or seen footage of someone playing it on a video reminiscing about the good old days. Oh wait, that's kind of this video. Shit. Now, everyone talks about Doom when it comes to the discussion about what popularized the FPS genre as a whole, and yeah, I guess it did, but hardly anyone ever talks about the game that came before it, Wolfenstein 3D. Doom probably wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for this game, and I want you to remember that. Just keep it in mind. Created by the same developers, id Software, Wolfenstein 3D was basically the first FPS game to ever exist. Technically, I mean, come on, can we really say this is an FPS game?
It is a little something for everyone.
You play as William Joseph Blazkowicz, and you kill Nazis. That's it. Listen fellas, it was a simpler time back then. That's all you really needed to know. The game has not aged well at all, especially compared to the original Doom. Every single room in the game looks the exact same due to the limitations, and I don't know, it was definitely a product of its time. id Software learnt from Wolfenstein 3D and expanded on everything with Doom. But you need to remember, Wolfenstein is the game that mentored it. We gotta give it the respect it deserves. Time passed and every single game coming out wanted to be like Doom, gradually evolving more and more, adding unique mechanics as technology improved. Then consoles became mainstream and we got Halo, the first FPS game to truly revolutionize playing games on console with a controller. Before this, the majority of FPS games were played on PCs with a mouse and keyboard. I mean, you had shit like GoldenEye, but playing that shit on this abomination wasn't exactly ideal.
What the hell is this?
Halo refined the first-person shooting gameplay with a controller. It set a standard for how the controls will be laid out for all console shooters in the future. Not only that, but it was an awesome game in general, expanding on the genre completely, each mission being a sandbox you could fuck around in, solving your silly problems in different ways against the Covenant.
Master Chief? You mind telling me what you're doing?
There was only a 2-weapon limit in the game, but that was down to the fact the controller doesn't have a million fucking number keys to select weapons, so it made sense. Regardless, it was good, and it was a huge success. Halo became the new Doom. Every game wanted to be it, but the difference is, no other shooter could come close to Halo, and we got so much fucking garbage within the genre. You guys remember Haze? I think it's called Haze. The cover's on the screen right now, and I hope I got the name right. It better be called fucking Haze. Then Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out, and it was all downhill from there. The FPS genre completely stagnated because of this game. Not because it was a bad game, but because every greedy, shitty company saw the success of Call of Duty, and they wanted to make the next COD cash cow themselves. Almost every first-person shooter that came out after that wanted to be Call of Duty, a linear restrictive first-person shooter. This wouldn't have been an issue if there weren't so fucking many of them. Even Halo wanted to become Call of Duty. You couldn't fucking escape it. Even Doom. Fucking Doom was taking notes from Call of Duty. Hot off the heels of the shit show that was Rage, what was shown of the 4th Doom game, it looked like it was going to be some sort of military post-apocalyptic shooter. Yeah, you'd still be fighting demons, but it was obvious the Call of Duty influence was there, and it just looked fucking shit. It just wasn't the Doom everyone remembered anymore. Thankfully, what we ended up getting was Doom 2016. Yeah, that's right, these two are the same game. Thank fucking god they made the changes though. Doom 2016 was an amazing game that started an entire new era of first-person shooters, a route I'm personally super glad it took, bringing back the resurgence of movement-based shooters. But the thing is, it wasn't Doom that technically started this. No, there was another game that came out just 2 years before Doom 2016. A game that I feel like inspired id Software to take the different direction they took for Doom, and that game was Wolfenstein The New Order. It feels like time has completely repeated itself. Remember how I said earlier how Doom would not have existed if it wasn't for Wolfenstein 3D? Well, it seems like the exact same thing happened here, with Doom taking all the credit once again. And honestly, I do not see enough people talking about Wolfenstein The New Order. If you want to know if the game's worth playing, yes, it's definitely worth playing. I'll just let you know now. Just like with Doom 2016, Wolfenstein The New Order is a reboot of the series, and an excellent one at that. If I were to summarize it in a very simple way, it's just like a modern Wolfenstein 3D. You play as William Joseph Blazkowicz again, and you kill Nazis. Except this time, the game tackles depressing themes and settings relating to the history of the Nazis. It humanizes all of the characters, making them all extremely likable, except for the Nazis of course, but I mean that's a given. And it takes place in an alternative reality where the Nazis actually won the war, which is an incredibly interesting setting and concept. We will get to all that character story theming shit later. What we need to talk about is the most important part of any first-person shooter, the gameplay. Well, technically the gunplay. And all I need to do is play this clip of me shooting the assault rifle. Yeah, it's fucking incredible in this game. Every single weapon in Wolfenstein The New Order is incredibly punchy and visceral. And I mean every single gun. There is absolutely zero stinkers in this brilliant roster. And if you ever want to make things even more intense, you can dual wield almost any weapon. It slows you down a lot while doing it, but you're basically a tank, so who cares? Well, you're a glass tank.
That's it. Take this shit no more, man.
You will have the most fun running and sliding around like a complete madman, shooting Nazis left and right. You know, that good-ass movement shooter gameplay that we've all come to know and love today. It doesn't feel entirely fleshed out in Wolfenstein though. Because it came out before Doom, it was setting the groundwork. There's a lot of growing pains here and there. The game has a weird leaning mechanic, and some combat encounters promote you to take a slower cover-based approach, and these are definitely the weakest sections of the game. They also feel incredibly unbalanced for some reason. The leaning mechanic was probably made specifically for the stealth sections of the game, which still aren't entirely fleshed out, but thankfully they're completely optional. Every now and then, whenever you enter an arena, you will see this appear. This is basically the game telling you, they don't know you're here. Slap that silencer on and slink about in the shadows. Like I said, stealth is completely optional, and while I personally don't like stealth in most games, I do actually enjoy doing it in Wolfenstein, which is odd considering how incredibly fun the run and gun gameplay is. That sign you saw earlier are the officers, and they're scattered around the arenas, and if they spot you, they call in reinforcements, and basically every Nazi within the area will know your exact location. Shit can hit the fan incredibly quickly. There really isn't much room for error with the stealth, making it incredibly satisfying if you manage to slink by an entire arena, but it also makes you kinda sad because you didn't get to shoot everyone within the arena, so I don't know, man. If we're going back to the comparisons though, the composer for Doom, Mick Gordon, actually composed for Wolfenstein The New Order before he became so well known with his tracks from Doom 2016. Just like with Wolfenstein The New Order though, it was just kinda swept under the rug and nobody really acknowledged it, which is a shame because the soundtrack for this game is absolutely banging. It's nowhere near as iconic as Doom's soundtrack, but the man really nailed the tone of Wolfenstein The New Order. So many tracks have this somber, depressing tone to them, which is fitting because it's a world where the Nazis won. It's hard to have any hope, but in some of the tracks an instrument would kick in, hyping up the player, giving them some form of a feeling that they have a fighting chance against the odds. Sadly, they messed up the mixing in the game. In certain sections you can barely hear the music playing. Like when I played recently to get this footage, I never noticed the music most of the time during fights. I feel like if the mixing was better, this shit would be on the same level as the Doom soundtrack. Like I mentioned earlier, the Nazis have won World War II in this universe, and Wolfenstein The New Order is basically taking place in an alternative reality of our own. It's basically a what if, and it's done in a very tasteful way, unlike the sequel, but we won't talk about that yet. Leave a like if you want to see a video on the other Wolfenstein games. This is now your chance to press that like button and maybe subscribe if you're feeling a bit generous. You're a Jewish American in a world that despises you. The Nazis were horrible people and the developers knew that, but they also acknowledged the fact that the Nazis were also smarter and way more well equipped a lot of the time. Within the first mission, you end up ditching your weapons for the Nazi weaponry because unfortunately it's just superior and far more more powerful. Not to mention, for the time period it takes place in, the 1960s, technology has advanced a lot, but definitely not in a good way. Everything has this grey industrial mechanic tone to it, with the occasional disgustingly contrasted red colour scattered around. They did an incredible job at creating a world nobody in their right mind would want to live in. There are missions within the New Order that tackle horrific events caused by the Nazis that happened during World War II, but we'll get to them later. Wolfenstein The New Order is an incredible game, and I don't think enough people give it the credit it deserves. I don't think Doom 4 would have made the drastic change it did if it wasn't for this game. If you haven't already and you're having thoughts about checking the game out now, well, I'm just gonna say now's the best time. You should play it, because I'm going to be spoiling the entire game from here on. If you don't care about that though, or you've already played it yourself, maybe make a nice coffee, sit back, and have fun listening to me talk about Wolfenstein The New Order. The game begins on the Baltic Sea near the coast of Germany in 1946. You and a few allies are storming a compound owned and run by Wilhelm Strauss, a Nazi researcher who had absolutely zero humanity, creating and researching without any remorse, creating death machines for the Nazis. He's referred to by the allies as Death's Head, and the only way any of you can see any chance of winning this war is by assassinating this man at his compound. You play as William Joseph Blazkowicz, just like in the previous Wolfenstein games. But I'm gonna be referring to him as BJ from now on because it's just way easier. You're in a plane with a Scottish pilot named Fergus, whose first interaction is him telling you to keep a lookout because he needs to take a piss.
You keep a lookout. I need to go to the piss.
This character is a fan favourite, by the way. He has to hold that piss because shit hits the fan and one of your allied planes is shot out of the sky. This is a war. There is no time for pleasures such as being able to urinate. The allied plane shot down unfortunately crashes near the plane you and Fergus are in, causing pretty bad damage to the engines. Since Fergus is the pilot, it's your job to go and fix the damages caused to your plane. And you gotta do it fast or you'll end up like your mates. Now during this, there's something that happens that's really minor but I absolutely adore. During little in-game cutscenes, you aren't invincible, and the game shows you this in a very dynamic way with these flames blasting in your face. As you're fixing the shit in the plane, you can see your health slowly draining because of the flames. It's good shit, and I really like it. It makes me feel immersed. Sadly, the engines are a bit of a lost cause, so to keep the plane up, you gotta get rid of some weight. Now, sadly, you can't just throw yourself out because I can imagine BJ is the heaviest fucking thing on the plane. Instead, you have to get rid of some valuable supplies in the cargo area. Supplies that could have possibly helped you a lot once you had landed. Once you're done with that, it's time to head back to the cockpit. You've done all you can. Shit, there are way too many Nazi planes in the sky taking everyone out, so you have to take matters into your own hand and step into the plane's turret. Oh yeah, take that you fucking Nazi bastard. Oh fuck.
You're still breathing, you chummy bastard.
Somehow you survive this, and Fergus kindly hands you a little med pack for all the fucking shrapnel and plane parts lodged into your body. The plane you're in is basically fucked right now, so the best thing to do is to hop onto another plane. It's an absolutely insane idea, but hey, Fergus managed it, so obviously I should be okay making that jump. Oh wait, fuck! It's just a scratch. Time to make the leap of faith. You just barely make it into the plane. But I mean, we've had a lot of close calls in the last few minutes. This isn't the first time. We're used to it. The most noticeable thing about the plane full of your allies is how hopeless it feels. All the soldiers look distraught, like they've given up, knowing they're fighting a losing war. In the cockpit, you're introduced to a cowering young soldier right next to Fergus piloting the plane. This is Wyatt. He is having a panic attack. You have to slap some sense into this poor kid. It's obvious how desperate we've become in this fight against the Nazis, recruiting inexperienced young adults, sending them to their deaths. It's a depressing, hopeless tone, and I love how the game shows all of this without any stupid wisecracks or out-of-place one-liners. You can tell it wasn't influenced by a certain company in their films, unlike the sequel. At this point, it's impossible to land the plane anywhere near Death's Head's compound. Their firepower and defenses are way too powerful, so the only thing Fergus can do with the plane is crash land it into the ocean near the shore of the compound.
It's the break of dawn. July 16, 1946. has gone to shit. The Nazi war machine is advancing at an astonishing rate. And we can't catch up. Our tactics are failing. Outclassed and outgunned. No one knows why. People are getting desperate. Not me. I'm here to see an old friend and settle a score. Turn this thing around.
Metallic monstrosities are patrolling the shoreline of the compound, and you are unfortunate enough to be grabbed by one. Thankfully though, you're thrown into a crashed plane, which conveniently has a phone in it, allowing you to communicate with Fergus and the others, who actually managed to land onto the shore. Unfortunately, right next to one of those metallic beasts. Fergus points out a crash-landed plane in the water with a huge turret still intact, and he suggests possibly swimming to it, to take out the monster. Once you manage to swim out of the plane into the shoreline, you are met with so many dead ally soldiers who didn't even manage to make it to the shore. They didn't even stand a chance. You're also met with this giant metallic foot stomping down just in front of you. It's absolutely huge. You cannot imagine what the fuck that thing could even be. But it's very obvious that the Nazis unfortunately have the upper hand here. You make it into the turret and murder the stupid metal dogs. We finally regroup with Fergus and the others, and we are handed our first weapon. Let's fucking go. And we instantly replace it with the Nazi assault rifle, because sadly the Nazis have the upper hand here, like I said earlier, with not only their technological monstrosities and armor, but their weaponry too. We work our way through the trenches, mowing down Nazis left and right until we make it inside and hop on one of the Nazi turrets. And we see what the big metal foot was earlier. Holy shit! I mean, we have this super powerful turret, so let's try and destroy that thing.
Get the fuck out my pocket!
Let's get the fuck out of here. Let's just keep moving through the compound. I can't imagine anything but oh my fucking god. Yep, you shit, this is the end. Oh fuck. Oh, thank you, Private Wyatt. We regroup with the squad again right at the bottom of the main compound. The only way up is to scale the walls. It's basically a death sentence, but it's the only way into the compound. Nazis are peeking out of windows left and right trying to stop you, but haha, I have those epic gamer reflexes. They can't fucking stop me. Holy fucking shit, that is a giant plane. We get split up again within the compound, so yeah, we're alone again. Obviously the smartest thing to do right now is to slink around the shadows, taking out the Nazis one by one, not making a sound. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Let's run and gun. Shit happens, Nazis die, and we end up regrouping again with Fergus, Wyatt, and the others. I just want to point out too that I really like this British guy who's a part of the group.
Yeah, what, you ain't got churches in England? You ain't got no priests there?
Yeah. Well, the Nazis sort of bombing them at the moment, so it's a bit of a problem.
We all jump across this huge gap, but because BJ is built like a fucking tank, the floor collapses in on itself, sending you all tumbling down into holy fucking shit, what the hell is this place? It's like some sort of experimentation room for Death's Head. There are frail, disgusting corpses held up by the skin on their backs on tables. Yeah, why, I fucking agree. Obviously we need to get out of here, but something is triggered causing the incinerators to activate. Fergus finds a way out and we just barely make it through, but the room we get into is another strange room. There are like these industrial coffins lodged into the floors. I wonder what could be in them. Holy fucking shit. Some sort of bloody mechanical abomination from the looks of it. We obviously have to put this hulking monstrosity down, and as it goes down and explodes, all that's left is flesh. Was this a human being? A human being that was experimented on to become some sort of super soldier? Who knows at this point? It's fucking horrifying and I want to get out of here. And oh, okay, that's Death's Head. Oh, brilliant, now the walls are closing and okay, I'm passing out. We wake up staring into the soulless husk that is one of those super soldiers we fought earlier. It handcuffs us, restricting any movement and adjusting our sight to see the exact same thing has happened to the others. We are absolutely fucked. I don't think there's any way out of this one, lads. Despite him being a frail, balding old man, our first interaction with Death's Head has him standing over us, giving him this imposing feeling. Not to mention all the shit we've seen, this man is obviously a monster. He goes over to Fergus and Wyatt and opens up a little suitcase with a knife in it. He points both of them out, oh, and the guy with the eye patch, but he says he's broken and has no interest in him. Poor fella. Def's head gives us a choice here. He tells us to choose who he will kill, between Wyatt or Fergus, and it's an incredibly hard choice to make. We've known Fergus the longest. He's been there since the beginning. He's also shown he's an incredibly capable soldier. Not only that, but an incredibly capable pilot too. And he's fucking Scottish. Then there's Wyatt. He's a young soldier who was probably drafted into a losing war unwillingly. He has his whole life ahead of him, and you've been there to calm him down and mentor him where need be. He also saved your life earlier. Depending on who you choose for this outcome can change certain things in the future of the game. Not only does it change who's with you throughout the rest of the game,
Don't fuck this up, you magnificent.
but it also changes small things like how you open shit up. Fergus teaches you hot wiring and Wyatt teaches you lockpicking. There are also unique NPCs later depending on who you choose. So much care and attention was put into the narrative of this game. It's one thing Wolfenstein will always hold over Doom. Sadly, I chose Wyatt to die here because my stream chat told me to. So this is all your faults, not mine. After choosing Wyatt's fate, all we're left with is a slow zoom in on BJ's face, with Wyatt screaming as machinery does unimaginable things to him. No matter who I choose, this part never fails to make me feel incredibly guilty. After murdering Wyatt, Def's head leaves, turning the incinerator on, also telling one of the super soldiers to stay to make sure we die. I hate to give the guy credit, but he's a fucking competent villain. Fergus, thankfully, is not taking any of this shit and has a plan, throwing us a pipe as he distracts the super soldier, making him turn his back to hold him down, allowing us to sneak up and lodge that bad boy into its back. We smash the nozzles for the incinerator to hopefully give us some time to think of an escape plan, and we find out the only way out is a window. Fergus teaches us hot wiring here to open up the shutters, and we jump out just before the place goes up in flames. The damage behind us causes a few bits of shrapnel to hit BJ in the back of the head, knocking him out, falling to what only you can imagine is his watery grave. This is how the game opens. Not with bombastic music blasting in our ears, no. Instead with this somber music showing BJ floating in the water. It feels so incredibly hopeless, and I absolutely love it. Despite playing as a human brick wall, you know, someone who could be considered a walking powerhouse, you still feel vulnerable. Enemies still feel incredibly dangerous and threatening. The odds always feel stacked against you. It's a feeling you never get in Doom 2016. The demons are just kinda brain dead and you get away with anything. But Doom Eternal is a lot like The New Order. One wrong step and you're fucking dead. But if you play strategically with the run and gun gameplay, the game rewards you for that. And that's when you feel like a powerhouse. BJ is luckily found floating in the ocean and is taken into care. He's in a comatose state. He can't move or speak, but he's still conscious. He stays in the same corner watching the world change around him. BJ even takes a liking to the nurse looking after him called Anya. Until one day where a group of Nazis come in. I'm not sure why they come in, it's probably some payment shit, but they start killing the sick people left and right with absolutely zero remorse. The Nazi even kills the workers for just trying to restrain him from murdering. During this, you're able to pick up the butter knife on the table, and after killing almost everybody in the room, the Nazi finally gets to you.
Nazi scum.
Standing there, it hits you how long you've gone without moving. BJ collapses to the floor, but he's a strong fella and he doesn't let that bother him. He picks up the closest weapon he can find with one objective. He needs to find Anya. She was taken away during that rampage. You find out the place is completely destroyed. The Nazis did not take any time to demolish it. Every now and then while moving around, your vision goes blurry too, but it doesn't impact the gameplay, thankfully. BJ is too strong to let a coma slow him down. The first thing you'll probably notice during this mission is the striking difference of the weaponry. It seems far more advanced than it was during your time at Def's Head's compound. I mean, you don't really have time to think about it considering the fact you're busy using them to defend yourself. This is also one of the only places in the entire game, aside from one tiny section later where you get the double barrel shotgun. I have no idea why this is or why this decision was made, because it's a beautiful shotgun that I want to use through the entire game. I guess we get a better one later. I can't really complain. We find Anya knocked out by a car in the courtyard, and BJ puts her into the car and gets the fuck out of there with her. But in this state, he is definitely not fit to be driving right now, but what else can he really do? Whilst driving, he can't stay awake though and passes out. He's woken up by gunfire. A random Nazi stood in the middle of the road waiting for them. Not only does it wake BJ up, but it wakes Anya up too, allowing her to grab the wheel as BJ handles the Nazi. Anya drives them both back home to her parents, and as BJ is getting out of the car, he hears something in the boot. Slinky fucking bastard. Within Anya's home, we get a nice little info dump. We learn that BJ has been in a coma for 14 years. Shocked by this info, BJ asks if there's any way for him to contact his allies, but that's when he's hit with the news. The Nazis have won the war. They won from a horrific event where they nuked the entirety of New York City, causing them to surrender to the Nazis. It truly was a losing war we were fighting earlier. Obviously, with cases like this, there must be some sort of resistance, right? But BJ is just told that the only known resistance was captured ages ago, and the only person who could know where the resistance members could have been taken to is the slinky bastard from earlier, who is conveniently downstairs ready to be tortured for that information. Anyway, let's get the stuff ready to fucking get that info out of— oh god fucking damn it, get the fuck off me! We get the information out of this Nazi twat. He tells us that the resistance are being held prisoner in one of the highest security prisons in Berlin. So I guess it's time to get there. BJ gets his iconic jacket on and we make our move. But before we get back to the run and gun gameplay, we actually get this little in-between section of Anya and BJ traveling to Berlin on a train. On his way back from getting coffee for them both, we are introduced to another antagonist. An antagonist who could be considered the main antagonist for this game, as she has far more of a presence than Death's Head. I guess he's far too busy with his fucking weird ass horrific experiments.
I think this guy's a lost cause.
On our way back, she tells us to sit down at the table with her. We can't exactly say no considering the huge fucking mechanized dickhead preventing us from leaving, so we have to oblige. The whole time we're sat there, she is asking us to choose different images to describe feelings, and there is this thick layer of tension surrounding the scene. It feels like she knows exactly who we are, and she just wants to fuck with us.
We do a little trolling.
Even now I cannot tell if she knows who we are, and I feel really fucking uneasy during this scene every time. Conveniently enough, she places her golden Luger, which she earned from the battle pass, next to the cards. And the developers knew we would notice this shit, giving us the option to pick up the gun and attempt to kill her. There isn't much point because you get murdered almost instantly, but it's a cool little detail to have included. At the end of it all, she points her gun at us. Shit, I think she does know who we are. But then she just laughs it off. It's as if she is drunk with power. She knows she can just completely fuck with us, and there is absolutely nothing we can do. She's like a Nazi officer or some shit, the fucking bitch. We get back to Anya, where we get possibly one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the entire game.
You know there's just one bed.
Yes.
Are you comfortable sharing?
Now we're in Berlin, and it's time to break the resistance fighters out of prison. At this point, we haven't actually seen the world overrun by the Nazis, but we do now with this shot of Berlin. It's become this horrific industrial hellhole. Everything is so grey and drab. It's truly a world no one would want to ever live in. The art team at Machine Games did an incredible job with this. We have to make our way down to a prison transport bus, and on the way down there, we acquire this little gadget called the laser cutter. It's actually a really cool little gizmo, allowing us to cut any shape into fences, allowing stupid ass man children like me to have a lot of fun with it. It's not even funny, I don't know. We get inside the prison, and it doesn't seem that heavily guarded. Like, there were a few guards here and there, but like, not much at all. Fuck. Another one of those mechanical dogs lurks the halls of the prison, acting as a guard for what I can only imagine are for intruders and any unfortunate prisoners somehow managing to escape. We make it up to where the resistant members are locked up. Well, at least some of them. I feel like some of these fellas in here were probably locked up for fucking coughing too loud or something. Freeing them all, we come to learn that one of those people is Fergus himself. It's so bloody lovely seeing the Scottish fella again, and he's absolutely chuffed to see you too. But their reunion is interrupted because one of the prisoners tries opening the door, ending with one of the other prisoners getting sniped across the map, like it's fucking Hunt Showdown or some shit. We obviously aren't going to be leaving this prison without a fight, so let's fucking give him one. Escaping with Fergus, he knows where the resistance is. Turns out there still is one, and they're hidden in the middle of Berlin. Not exactly the smartest place to be hiding, but hey, what can you do? They're literally grasping at straws to survive at this point. Getting to the resistance base, we learned that it acts as some sort of a hub area. We can explore it, do little chores, talk to the other resistance members who are absolutely miserable and want fucking nothing to do with us.
Folder should be in the drawer in a desk in her room, where I left it.
Chin up, lads, it's only a Nazi-occupied world we live in. There's also this bed upstairs which takes us back to Wolfenstein 3D, which is rightfully named Nightmare, because if I had a dream where I was sent to a build engine version of our world, I would probably piss the bed. At this point in the game, after almost every mission, we always end up back in the base, where the next plan of what to do commences. These plans involve us traveling around the world, stealing gear and technology from the Nazis. One of those pieces of technology is the laser craft work, which completely replaces the laser cutter. Look at this beautiful thing, it's fucking gorgeous. One of these missions involves us going into a concentration camp to get an extremely smart scientist out of there to help the resistance. It's also where we encounter the lady from the train again, who's actually called Frau Engel. She runs this camp and she is a fucking revolting human being. Everything about this mission is so horrific and dire. There is this ginormous mechanical monstrosity that patrols the area with a huge furnace for a mouth. It's used to dispose of bodies or execute people. It's genuinely such a terrifying thing. We actually get caught at one point slinking around this mission, almost causing our execution by the hands of that machine, with Frau Engel as the main spectator. She definitely recognizes us now. Thankfully, earlier we met the scientist fella before this, who had a very special plan which we managed to complete right before the mech can get its hands on us. His plan was to take control of the thing, preventing our fate, but also giving Frau Engel a taste of our own medicine. And we run a massive fucking rampage through the camp on the machine, freeing everyone at the end. Like I said earlier, so many of these missions have the resistance acquiring extremely powerful equipment and gear to assist them, and one of these missions takes place on the moon, and it is a brilliant mission, let me tell you. But there's a scene within the mission that's incredibly powerful relating to the camp from earlier. BJ finds a table with a knife, and he carves the numbers tattooed onto his arm off from his time there. The pain he's feeling right now carving the numbers out is nothing compared to the pain and anguish felt within those camps. I genuinely respect Machine Games for making a mission set in a concentration camp, addressing what they would possibly have been like if the Nazis had won the war. They didn't just brush over it because it might upset or offend people. They fully acknowledge it, and I really respect them for that. Not to mention BJ's Jewish heritage, it just adds so much more to this scene. It's tragically brilliant. At the end of the moon mission, there's this impending feeling of dread and hopelessness. Everything just starts going to shit once you crash land back on Earth. You've been pushing so hard back against the Nazis this whole time, but all you've managed to do is scratch them at most. They are an unstoppable force, and you really feel it at this point. You even fight the big fucking mechanical monster from Death's Head's compound. This time you don't have a turret though, and you have to fucking use your weaponry on the ground. It is fucking intense. This impending doom is most felt when the resistance base is found and stormed by no one other than Frau Engel herself, with heavily armed Nazi soldiers, and you want nothing more than to get back there to stop it. You don't make it back in time. Almost everyone you care about has been either captured or killed, and the place is swarming with Nazis. You aren't gonna take any of this shit though, and you storm the place to take back what's yours. We learn that everyone who survived has been taken to Death's Head's compound as a prisoner, the place we originally stormed just before we lost the war to the Nazis, which means we end up back where it all started, but 14 years later, and this time it is far more heavily armed. But that isn't going to stop us. With absolutely zero hesitation, we go in guns blazing. The further up we get into the compound, the more lab-like it becomes. It's obvious we are getting closer to Death's Head himself. On the way there, we get interrupted by a Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare. We're tranquilized by this fella who I can only imagine is like Frau Engel's sexual partner. I didn't point him out because he's not really important. The dumbass tried tranquilizing a human brick and thought, hey, I'm gonna torture him to Frau Engel and kill him to satisfy her on Skype. But nope, you made a mistake, buddy. He is murdered right in front of Frau Engel, and that's the last we hear from her in this game. She took something we love, so we did the exact same to her. Severely injured by the stabbing and tranquilizer, we do end up meeting with Anya and the others who actually manage to escape. We all get into a lift together, but obviously something has to go wrong, and everyone escapes it apart from BJ. And while BJ is trapped in the lift, it's going up, straight towards Death's Head. And despite his injuries, he is fucking ready. Before this mission, BJ would get PTSD flashbacks to that day at Death's Head's compound, of the choice he had to make. It clearly weighs on his consciousness, and he probably blames himself for the death of Private Wyatt. When BJ gets up there, his first instinct is to shoot, filled with pure rage and anger. But Death's Head is smart and is behind bulletproof glass. Man, I fucking hate complimenting this guy, but he's bloody competent. After this, Death's Head gets up and picks up this little jar with a brain in it, asking BJ if he remembers his friend, causing a flashback that we did not see originally. A flashback I can only imagine BJ suppressed due to how horrific it was. A flashback of us being able to see what Death's Head did to Private Wyatt, slitting open his back and extracting his brain from behind. All of this after gouging the poor guy's eyes out. Death's Head takes the brain and puts it into a hulking mechanical abomination, setting it free to kill us. Wyatt's brain has no control over this machine. It must only be powered by his consciousness, because every time we manage to stun it, we hear Wyatt yearning for death. And on the final stun, BJ talks to Wyatt for the last time.
Wyatt, you in there?
Captain, I tried. So sorry I shot you. I have no control over my actions. Cannot live like this. You have to put an end to it.
Private, it was an honor to serve by your side.
And after that, we finally put the poor guy out of his misery once and for all. Private Wyatt is finally at peace, and BJ knows this now, so the only thing standing in his way is Death's Head himself, ending in this bombastic boss fight with flames encasing the arena. You have to use what feels like your entire arsenal on this fella. He is absolutely no pushover. We take down his mech, leaving nothing but his frail ass to defend himself, and just before we finish him, we are greeted to one more flashback. A flashback remembering what he did, giving BJ even more reason to fuck this up. But Death's Head has one more trick up his sleeve. BJ just survives this grenade, but he's on his last legs. He knows he's not making it out of this alive. He knows what's at stake here, and he is all but ready and willing to sacrifice himself for what's right.
Glasgow, do you read? Am I clear to fire?
You're clear.
Such an incredible ending. Despite how powerful he was, William Joseph Blazkowicz was only a human being with the odds stacked against him. He knew what he was fighting for, and he knew what was right, and despite how many times he was knocked down, or he felt like it was the end, he never gave up. He's ready to go out knowing he may have made a difference. Wolfenstein The New Order is an incredible game, and I don't think enough people give it the credit it deserves. I feel as if it laid the groundworks for the resurgence of run-and-gun style shooters mimicking the old days that we have today. Everyone believes it's Doom 2016 that did this, and I mean, yeah, it was, but nobody ever mentions the game that comes before it, Wolfenstein The New Order. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you all enjoyed what you saw. If you would like to see me possibly talk about the other Wolfenstein games in the future in this style, then don't forget to leave a like, maybe subscribe, and let me know in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.